Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online series 10 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we are trying out a team that I think is just really fun because it features some really wild attacks and sets. We actually went up against this in a recent episode, and I figured this would be a pretty good time to feature it. So yeah, this is a Kyurem-White team. We've actually used Kyurem-White a couple of times in Series 10, not the Pokemon I expected to feature as much as we have, but it's just really fun, and it's one that obviously doesn't necessarily have the best matchups, right? When you look at the most common Pokemon, you're up against Xerneas, Zacian as two of the four. Like, both of those can be a little bit scary for Kyurem to go up against. And so the rest of the team is designed in a way to help you, especially in those kind of subpar matchups. Kyurem can be very, very good into some other restricteds, right? Pokemon like Kyogre or Groudon, you just have super effective damage into, for example. And overall, like, Blizzard in the Hail just does so much damage, especially when you have a Life Orb on Kyurem as well. So this Kyurem is just designed to hit as hard as possible, especially when the Hail is up. Freeze Dry and Earth Power also give you really good coverage, and make it so that you don't only have to rely on Blizzard. So the fun thing here is that the Pokemon's going to set up the Hail is the ALOLAN Ninetales, which we don't, really see very often in Series 10. This Ninetales is also interesting. I mean, Blizzard, Moonblast, Protect are all standard attacks, but instead of something like an Aurora Veil, it's actually running Sheer Cold. Sheer Cold is obviously not the most reliable attack. It's something that you don't want to depend on, but it can bail you out of situations that you otherwise would always lose, basically. Part of the other thing is that this team, is fairly offensive, so you could definitely run Aurora Veil, I think, if you wanted to just have a safer option, but I think Sheer Cold's just fun and, turns situations that are, 0% winnable into 30% chances, right? Which I think is generally neat. So, standard Ninetales just with the Focus Sash. And so, Ninetales plus Kyurem's going to be a really effective duo in general. One of the things is that weather is not very common in this format. I mean, you'll run into Torkoal and Pelipper occasionally, but it feels a little bit less frequent than some of the other formats where, every other team felt like, a Sun matchup, for example, or, Tyranitar and Sand in the beginning of Sword and Shield. And so, you're able to really maximize, Hail, basically, because weather isn't as common. So to round out the team, you've got Entei. This is pretty standard. It's quite bulky. It's not max speed, and as a result, you have more invested in bulk. But that's valuable because the speed doesn't really make much of a difference. There aren't that many Pokemon you want to outspeed anyway around the speed tier. Urshifu is normally one of them, but this team has good Urshifu answers, especially with the Ninetales. And so this Entei is really designed to just wall a lot of the common restricted Pokemon. It's very good into Xerneas as well as Calyrex Shadow Rider. You can Sacred Fire Xerneas and Crunch Calyrex Shadow Rider. For the remainder of the Pokemon, you've got Safety Goggles Urshifu. This Urshifu is max HP, max attack. There's no speed investment. And Goggles is specifically really neat because it is going to be super helpful into, Trick Room setups. Amoonguss plus a Trick Room user, for example. It also helps against, just making sure that you don't fall asleep because, otherwise Spore can be somewhat obnoxious. And so it completely walls, Amoonguss and can help against other, Rage Powder users, Volcarona, for example. And so the other thing to know is that this Urshifu is really bulky. That's going to be helpful. It's because you don't have Focus Sash on it, right? Sash is on Ninetales, so might as well just turn it into a bulkier Pokemon that is going to, survive attacks that people often won't expect. Also makes it so that, you have another pretty good answer into Calyrex Shadow Rider, where you not only do you have a ton of bulk, but you can also obviously just one-shot it. And then the last two sets are Quick CLAW Ferrothorn. This one is super interesting. Quick Claw is obviously not a very consistent item in VGC, but on this team, it's one of those which is you can completely surprise your opponent and potentially just knock something out before he even gets to move, which I think is really fun. So it's a strategy that, typically you don't see used very commonly at a high level just because you're not going to get maximum mileage out of it typically, but it makes a lot of sense, right? I think you could also probably run Choice Band on a Ferrothorn like this just because it's a very offensive set. There's no Leech Seed, Iron Defense, Body Press. It's just pure damage, and it does a good amount of damage as well. So Quick Claw is one of those where it's since Ferrothorn is normally so slow, no one ever expects it to move before you. And so if you actually even just get one activation at any point, that could be huge in just picking up a KO on something before it attacks. A Quick Claw Gyro Ball into Zacian, for example, does a ton of damage. So yeah, just kind of a fun item. And then finally, you've got Choice Scarf Alecki. This is a really interesting set because it's max speed Alecki. So this is so nice as a lead because you can just Electro Web and you'll basically outspeed everything. Even Pokemon at +2 speed, right? Kyogre under Tailwind, for example. There are a lot of Pokemon that even with the right speed control, +2 speed, you still get outsped by Alecki, and then Alecki can just drop their speed immediately with Electro Web. So you've got Electro Web and Volt Switch, those are standard, but the rest of the attacks are actually really interesting in Zap Cannon and Electro Ball. Scarf ZAP specifically with Electro Ball is really nice to deal with like Trick Room setters as well. It just does massive amounts of damage, and it's a set slash move that like no one ever really expects these days. And then Zap Cannon just gives you like a much stronger burst of damage relative to something like a Thunderbolt, for example. Very unreliable, only hits 50% of the time, but is very, very good. And basically does a little bit of extra damage like otherwise your opponents probably won't expect. So yeah, I think, you know, this team just has a lot of fun decisions in the sets, right? The Pokemon look relatively standard. Kyurem is obviously not the most common restricted, but we've used it a fair amount. And yeah, the team creator was able to get like top 100 on the ladder with this last ranked season, I believe, or even higher. So kudos to them. I think this one is just fun, but I also think it's really, really darn good. So let's get into today's episode. Thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy. And question of the day, we've been talking about Series 11 a bunch with the rule set coming out for it. I'm curious, specifically on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited you are for it. For me, I don't know, like the format was okay last time we played it, but I would have preferred something new rather than going back to something. And even when we were towards the end of the format, I wasn't like the biggest fan, so I'd probably give it like a 4, honestly. Still will play it, still will make content around it, but I can't say I'm like, you know, jumping out of my seat to play it. So that's my answer. Let me know yours in the comment section below, and let's get started. Alright, getting into things here, and it's rank number 17, so super high ranked opponent, which is really cool, and they have a really cool team. Yveltal, Landorus, Incineroar, Amoonguss, Jellicent, Stakataka. So, Kyurem and Ninetales are actually pretty darn great here for us. For max speed, we've got Earth Power and Blizzard, as well as Freeze Dry. So, I definitely want to bring both, I think. Yeah, like, Ninetales and Kyurem for sure. The question is who I drop. I think it's probably Regieleki. Their team is relatively slow. Okay, if I'm my opponent, actually, who am I not bringing, right? I definitely would go with the Trick Room route, so something like Amoonguss plus Jellicent. This is where Safety Goggles Urshifu is going to be incredibly strong for us. The question is whether or not I want Entei. It doesn't make that much sense, honestly. So I think the 4 Pokemon are Urshifu, Kyurem, Ferrothorn, Ninetales. Now it's a question of what order we want to bring those in. I think I expect them to go with Amoonguss plus a Trick Room user. So I'm definitely leading Urshifu. The question is who I want to lead next to it. It's probably Kyurem, right? Yeah, and then Ferrothorn, Ferrothorn, Ninetales in the back. Entei doesn't make that much sense here, and neither does Regieleki. So this is a really interesting matchup. I actually think, like, you know, Yveltal is probably one of the better restricted that we could run into to start off the game. Just because, like, we have so much super effective damage against it, and the main thing here is basically, like, what Pokemon do you not bring if you're my opponent, right? It feels really weird to bring the Landorus. Amoonguss is tricky, but I think you still might want to lead it. But they're going to go with Incineroar and Yveltal. Okay, well, at least with this, there's no threat of Trick Room on turn 1, which I'm okay with. The only question is, like, do I want to maybe double protect turn 1? And also, are you AV on Yveltal? Because what I could do is... I'm also curious how fast the Yveltal is. Yeah, our Urshifu here has a lot of bulk. We're not fast at all. It's max HP, max attack. So I feel like double protecting turn 1 is fine. I don't know if an Oblivion Wing KOs is the thing. Maybe, yeah, I mean, double protect into turn 2, switch into Ninetales. Seems okay. Let's see, I've got Ferrothorn in the back, so we need to eliminate Incin. This is not the lead I expected. It's a good lead by them. Yeah, I'll just play a safe turn 1, I think, and see what they want to go for. And then turn 2, the most likely play is switching out Urshifu into the Ninetales. I'm still thinking about staying with Urshifu because we are max HP. But, like, they're just going to Oblivion Wing and heal any damage I do to them, right? They actually didn't click Fake Out, which is a smart play, too. Maybe a parting shot? Yeah. Okay. Assuming they make the same play this next turn, they're probably going to parting shot into a Trick Room user, presumably. I think I'm still down to switch into Ninetales here. Just whether or not it's actually worth Blizzarding, because, like, Yveltal's going to heal back a lot, but I don't mind getting Chip onto Incin and also scouting for what kind of Yveltal set this is. Like, are you Life Orb or Assault Vest? It's probably AV Yveltal, if I had to guess. So So yeah, this was just a pretty strong lead by them. I really thought they would try to go the Trick Room out with the Amoonguss stack or Amoonguss Jellicent. Because without safety goggles on the Urshifu, I actually don't have a good way to deny that, but they just had a better lead here. Okay, so we'll get the Life Orb Blizzard off. It's a ton of damage. Is it AV? I'm honestly not sure. Either way, they're going to Oblivion Wing, and that's fine, because even though you heal, you'll probably be in KO range from another one. That did not do very much damage either. Okay, so that's honestly a really good turn. Yeah, like, after Hail, even with Parting Shot, Blizzard might KO, and I can double Blizzard this next turn. Now, this is where we have, like, a 30% chance to potentially just auto-win the game next turn, because I have a Sheer Cold. So, like, I would guess that they bring in Stakataka right now. That just makes the most sense to me. What I could also do is just double Blizzard. Yeah, so there's stack. The other issue is that Incineroar is, like, decently strong offensively from their end. I don't know. I mean, like, I think Sheer Cold here actually might be worth it. Sheer Cold and Blizzard. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. If we hit it, I think we just auto-win the game. If we miss, so be it. Double Blizzard wasn't gonna KO Stakataka anyway. It would only give us, like, a slight chance to freeze, basically. Oh, they actually protect. Oh, that's really smart. Okay. So they're basically sacking Yveltal here. Good to confirm that they have protect, but that's gonna be a really smart play from their end. You know, here, we actually would prefer Blizzard not to KO, and then for them to KO Ninetales, so then I get a free switch it into Urshifu. And they hang on. That's actually very good. Unless they did not KO the Ninetales in this position. So let's see. Oblivion Wing. Okay, cool. And that KOs Ninetales. That's actually perfect. So I'm sad we don't get to get a Sheer Cold off there, but that's a mighty fine trade, I would say, at the end of the day. Like, is Stakataka really going to have Protect and Wide Guard and Trick Room? That feels relatively unlikely to me. So here I'm leaning towards just clicking Close Combat and Blizzard. Yveltal probably switches out into Incin, is my guess. But yeah, let's just go for that. If I double Blizzard there, the issue is that my opponent then gets Incin out, and then you can just click Fake Out and, onto Ninetales and then Trick Room, right? So then I'm like hoping for a freeze on a Stakataka, and the odds of that aren't exactly amazing, even when you're using Blizzard with both Pokemon. My only issue here is, yeah, I'm just struggling. I'm a little bit nervous about late game damage I'll put into Incin right now. But we position ourselves to actually be in a really good spot this turn specifically. The big question also is, what is my opponent's fourth, right? It's Amoonguss, Landorus, Jellicent. All of those Kyurem White does really, really well into. Oh, it's actually stack switching out. And they did bring Landorus. Wow, okay. They're just going to go for a Sucker Punch on a Kyurem. So this is just a double KO for us, which is obviously huge. Now, the thing is, I have Life Orb Earth Power, but I'm at -1 from Incineroar. Presumably, you bring out the Incineroar, you're going to click Fake Out into the Urshifu slot, so then I can't close combat you. They're also going to see that I'm Safety Goggles, which is fine. I mean, I have Ferrothorn as my last one. It's a quick CLAW Ferrothorn. But it doesn't really deal much damage in this one. But, like, my other options were Jellicent and Entei, so neither of those really made that much sense. This is a pretty smart turn by my opponent, right? Because you basically get to Psycho and Fake Out with Trick Room. So they didn't bring Amoonguss, which really saved them, honestly. I think if they brought Amoonguss, it would have been a very difficult game for them. See, the issue here is that this Ferrothorn does no damage into my opponent, really. Because we don't have something like Body Press. Does -1 Earth Power KO Stakataka? That's one of my questions here. I wouldn't think so. If I'm my opponent, I'm clicking Fake Out into Urshifu right now. I could just stay in with both an attack here. Going to Ferrothorn and going for Earth Power here, but I think it's better to actually just close combat and Earth Power here because there's a decent chance Incin actually clicks Fake Out into Kyurem instead. Let's see. Fake Out. Okay, good. So they target Ferrothorn. I was thinking, like, if it's worth it to just Earth Power Incin there and try to pick up a KO to force this to be a 3v1. But if Earth Power just KO, I don't think it does at -1, but let's see. Oh, it does! Nice. Okay, that's huge. Yeah, I honestly think sometimes people just forget about Earth Power on Kyurem, or maybe they were just expecting to survive. Thankfully, they're not like Shuckaberry in that position, but now it's just a guaranteed win. So that was a really fun first game. You know, Ninetales, once again, is just so essential for this team in setting up the Hail to enable Kyurem, so I can spam Blizzard. Being faster than Yveltal was really big, and the turn that they went for Protect on Stakataka and KO'd Ninetales was really good. Because they brought Landorus, yeah, this was a pretty tricky game for them, but now we can just go for Knockoff and Earth Power onto Incin. The key thing here is that I think the restricted matchup was just very heavily in our favor. Kyurem into Yveltal is quite strong. The awkward thing is, yeah, like our fourth Pokemon, I'm not sure who the best one was. It felt like it had to be Ferrothorn because I can't justify bringing a Choice Scarf ZAP into a matchup in which my opponent has Trick Room. And Entei, like, AB Entei is, like, a little bit okay. I mean, it would be interesting leading it just to cover for Incineroar, but, like, it's pretty weak into everything else that my opponent has, right? It just doesn't make that much sense. And it doesn't really deal much damage into Incin or Stakataka there either. So, yeah, this is one in which, like, we basically had to rely very heavily on Ninetales, Kyurem, and Urshifu. Unfortunately, we were able to do that. But the key thing in this game was my opponent not being able to get Trick Room up ever safely, right? Like, and by bringing Landorus and, like, just sacrificing both Pokemon that turn, that was really big. Like, I was thinking you could actually just switch the stack into Incin there. So then you still have Lando in the back, and then you bring in stack. I guess it'd be the same position, though, if Fake Out, like, yeah, whether or not I KO Stakataka, and since they click Fake Out onto the Urshifu, then Earth Power would have still KO'd Stakataka, so we probably still would have won, but I'm not sure. Especially because their Landorus might be faster than us, I think, if they're max speed. So that was definitely a really fun first game, and definitely have to acknowledge that we had a good restricted matchup, so we take those. But yeah, let's just look for another one. Okay, second game of the day here, and it's Zacian. This was actually a very high-ranked team from last season, if I remember correctly, featuring Iron Ball, Grimmsnarl. I think it might have been Expert Belt Pelipper, too. Zacian. Like, Kyurem obviously doesn't have a great matchup into it, right? We've got Scarf ZAP, so I can use this to Scarf Electroweb. Like, what I'm thinking is we go with the Lecky Entei, so then we can Electroweb into Sacred Fire. Ferrothorn's, like, cute, but Sacred Sword / Close Combat still does so much damage to it, so I'm thinking we just go Kyurem and Ninetales instead. Like, Sheer Cold obviously is very unreliable, but it's a 30% chance to one-shot anything, and Ninetales otherwise, you know, wouldn't be able to hit a lot of Pokemon in the format. Urshifu doesn't make that much sense here, especially if they have Play Rough, but even if they don't, we don't do that much damage in Zacian, and even Crit Wicked Blows aren't that valuable here, given that they have multiple resistances to it. And then Ferrothorn, like, it just doesn't make that much sense to me either, because it doesn't deal enough damage. Well, actually, I say that, but it does have Gyro Ball. Single Gyro Ball here is pretty valuable in a Zacian, but I don't know who I would drop for it, because I really want a Lecky plus Entei, and then if I'm bringing Ninetales, or Kyurem, I probably want Ninetales as well. There actually is an argument to make here, which is to bring Ferrothorn over Ninetales, but because they have Pelipper, what Ninetales allows us to do is change the weather from rain to hail, meaning that Sacred Fire will deal more damage. So I think it's fine going with these. You could make an argument for Ferrothorn for sure, just because, yeah, single Gyro Ball, like, you take chip damage onto Iron Barbs and then Gyro Ball, especially if Quick Claw activates, would be hilarious, but they're just going to go with Zacian and Incineroar. Okay. So, this is interesting. You can't click Fake Out onto the Entei. I'm Choice Scarfed. Now, you would think you're my opponent, you would just click Fake Out into a Lecky. You always switch a Lecky out, but... I mean, Sacred Fire into the Zacian slot here is really safe, right? Like, I think I'm down to Electroweb and Sacred Fire here, because I could see Instant switching out into Pelipper on turn 1. And if they click Fake Out and double up onto a Lecky, that's fine, because I trade a significant amount of damage onto Zacian for that. Okay. We take those. Yeah, I guess they just completely forgot about Inner Focus. Yeah. I mean, that literally should just win us the game on the first turn. So, yeah, I was thinking, like, their safe play there is to Fake Out a Lecky and then just, like, double up onto a Lecky. I don't even know if that's a safe play, though, necessarily, because if I protect a Lecky there and just Sacred Fire, you're in a really bad spot. So, you know, that we obviously had a really good lead to start the game. Now, it's actually still far from over. But with Ninetales and Kyurem in the back, these two should be able to close out the game for us. I am AV. Earth Power probably still KOs us, but... What's their last one? If you're bringing a Landorus here, what does that indicate to be? It should be Pelipper as their fourth, in my opinion. Otherwise, no, you wouldn't be... Rillaboom would not be the strongest bring here. I don't love switching out Entei here. Like, I am down to just click Electro Web and Stone Edge into Incineroar. Yeah, this game still isn't over, even though I was like, okay, we should just win after that turn 1. Okay, we missed that. That's fine. They're going to Earth Power into Entei. That's fine. I'm just looking for the safe switch in right now. We actually survive. Wow, AV is nuts. Man, then if we had hit Electro Web, maybe we actually would have KO'd. So it's actually a pretty unfortunate miss, but we're using 2 moves that are low accuracy there, right? So I can't really complain. They're actually going to KO themselves from Flare Blitz, which is perfect, right? Because now you probably just bring in your Pelipper. I mean, if it's Rillaboom or Grimmsnarl is their last one, I think the game's immediately over. If it's Pelipper, it's interesting because you can at least go for a Tailwind. But I have Sash Ninetales in the back, so I'll have Weather Control. Yeah, that's Pelipper. Once again, Pokemon's such a tough game because it's like all it takes is forgetting about one ability or one like speed tier, one attack, and you can instantly lose the game, right? So then forgetting about inner focus, like I've done that plenty of times before or made mistakes like that before. Obviously, it benefits us a lot, but Pokemon's a tough game, right? Like it's very easy to make those mistakes, and on every episode of Road to Ranked, I feel like there's at least something that I do that's incorrect or a mistake, but that's part of the game. The goal is to just try to minimize that as much as possible. Okay, they have Wide Guard, but that's fine. It's also good because they just now confirm that they have it, right? And so, like, Landorus, even if you Rock Slide here to pick up a double KO, I just get Ninetales and the Kyurem, so I can just click Freeze Dry with it. So I expect Rock Slide here, but once again, like, our endgame win con is both of those Pokemon, right? So there's really no reason to switch them in just because they deal with my opponent's team so well as soon as that Zacian is eliminated in the early game. So Entei goes down, and who would I rather go out into first? Probably Ninetales, right? Yeah, Ninetales first is fine. Because they're forced to click Wide Guard right now with Pelipper. The only reason I didn't want to bring Kyurem in is because I was a little bit nervous about like an Earth Power crit. So I think like here we can just Electro Web and go for a Moonblast onto the Pelipper. I don't think the Pelipper has Protect. And like, yeah, if you don't Wide Guard, then Electro Web will just KO you. So the scary thing here is potentially missing Electro Web, right? We missed one earlier, honestly, Incineroar. If we miss one here, that could actually get a little bit dicey, but they're just going to go for Wide Guard again, which is fine. Makes sense, you're preventing the Blizzard. I don't want to switch Lecky out once again, just because the endgame is just so much easier one with Kyurem. So, Moonblast here probably doesn't KO, but I don't need it to, right? The thing is, then I can just go for another Moonblast this subsequent turn. Oh, they do have Sludge Bomb. I mean, that makes sense. But they can't poison us, though, actually, so it's fine. Unless, for some reason, you're not Sheer Force. Yeah, and as long as you can't poison us, that's what matters. Cool. Okay, with that, there is a debate here as to whether or not I want to Moonblast the Pelipper here again, because it might actually make more sense to Protect here. Because it gives me the free switch into Kyurem that way. This whole game, I was basically just trying to play around the endgame win con of a critical hit on their end. And since we have Freeze Draw on Kyurem, I'm fine protecting here. It's just a shame because I think Pelipper hangs on with literally 1 HP after the hail damage this turn. So like if it got KO'd there, this was basically a guaranteed wrap. Oh, they do have Protect on Pelipper. Okay, so it's Protect and Wide Guard. I've seen this team before, but I actually haven't seen the full moveset, so I wouldn't be surprised if they actually don't have Tailwind. That would be really interesting. Alright, they just Sludge Bomb. Hail's also slowly getting stalled out, so we have to be careful about that. 13 down to 4, so I could obviously potentially lose both of my Pokemon here. Do you faint from Hail? It literally has 1 HP, yeah. But I think it's fine, right? Because the Pelipper always faints this turn, so we have a guaranteed win since Ninetales is faster, so we just switch this out into Kyurem, and then I just have a Blizzard the subsequent turn. I guess the fear is them potentially getting a double Protect off. Maybe it was better to actually just stay in with Ninetales, honestly. Yeah, they go for Wide Guard, that's fine. Because at this point, it's a 2v1. But I guess the risk here is, like, if they do have Rock Slide, and then you get a double Protect, and I miss Blizzard, and you double hit Rock Slide. They just go for Sludge Bomb, though, which is fine. Yeah, we take that decently well. At that point in the game, I think it's better to just Earth Power, right? That should deal more damage than Sludge Bomb. So, yeah, that's going to be a knockout onto the Pelipper. Now there's still 2 turns of Hail, so we just bring the Ninetales in and just click Blizzard and Freeze Dry. Actually, Blizzard with both Pokemon is fine in this position. So, yeah. Okay, Ninetales comes out, and let's just click Blizzard. I mean, they have to double Protect here, right? Like, to even have a chance. Even if you double Protect, it's fine. It's just yeah, like, your win con is double Protect into me missing Blizzard. And actually, because they didn't do enough damage earlier, like, I don't even think a Rock Slide would double KO. So, like, Blizzard into Freeze Dry, like, should still guarantee us the win, more or less. So, they'd have to crit a Rock Slide as well into Kyurem. The only questionable decision in this game was whether or not I should have actually switched out Kyurem, like, rather than just staying in. But, yeah, I'm just going to Blizzard and Blizzard again this turn. So, let's see if they get the double to start. They don't. Okay, perfect. So, Ninetales will get the Blizzard off, and that should just be a knockout. Perfect. Cool. Okay, I mean, that definitely got a little bit scary for how good the lead was, but I think we always, like, had a very, very safe endgame here. It was just, like, trying to figure out a way to reduce the odds of losing to any RNG, basically. But I don't think there was, like, a clear, like, 100% victory, unless Kyurem can take a crit Earth Power from the Landorus 100% of the time. Then all I needed to do was just stay in with Ninetales earlier, but yeah. So it is sub Zacian. Like I said, this is a rental team. I'll probably feature it on the team at some point as well, because it was one of the highest ranked teams in the previous season. Goggles, Fast Instant. Wow, max speed. That's really interesting. Expert Belt. Yeah, no. Wow, Weather Ball, Hurricane Protect, Wide Guard. That's neat. Thankfully, they couldn't really take advantage of our weather, but yeah, Life Orb. And they didn't have Rock Slide. Okay, so this Lando really didn't have any way to win the end game. And then it's Iron Ball, Trick with Protect, Spirit Break, Light Screen. Super interesting. Cool. Yeah, some really, really fun games to start. And obviously, this game was really difficult for my opponent to do anything after turn 1. So we had a very strong turn 1, especially because, like, the Zacian just makes both the Kyurem and Ninetales struggle a lot, just because neither of those deal much damage. You have Earth Power, but Zacian is just going to outspeed you and KO you before I can get that Earth Power off. So Regieleki to get that single Electro Web off was really, really important in this. And fortunately, we were able to just completely, you know, have a turn 1 in which, like, my opponent just probably forgot about Inner Focus, and we were able to fully capitalize off it. So, yeah, let's just look for another one. Third one of the day, and it's going to be Xerneas. Xerneas. Okay, this is where Quick Claw Ferrothorn can be really funny, as well as Sheer Cold on Ninetales, and honestly, like, if you look at the matchup, it's just objectively really tough to just damage Xerneas enough to the point of KOing, right? My opponent also has dual fire types in Incid and Volk. So if I'm my opponent, I'm bringing both of those Xerneas, and then definitely not bringing Rillaboom. I'd probably drop Regieleki as well, so I'd go Incin, Volk, Xerneas, Indeedee, and just lead maybe Incin plus Xerneas. So how do I really beat that? I've got Entei, I've got AV, but I don't have Snarl, and we're also not speedy. Xerneas is likely going to be max speed anyway. So we assume Incin plus Xerneas, like... Yeah, this is probably a matchup where we just have to get a little bit lucky. Like, I honestly think the Ninetales and the Ferrothorn are the solutions here, with Quick Claw Ironhead and Sheer Cold on the Ninetales. I could go with the Regieleki to get an Electro Web off immediately. That's actually kind of intriguing to me. I mean, if I expect Instant Xerneas, Sacred Fire still does a lot of damage, right? Okay, Ninetales, Entei, Kyurem, Ferrothorn. The thing about my opponent's team is almost all of their damage is concentrated into Xerneas, although we don't have great fire resistances either. So it's like, even if we knock out Xerneas, I am a little bit nervous about how the rest of the team ends up performing. Or I should say, if we knock out Xerneas, like, they'll still have not super strong sweepers, but we don't also have a great line of defense against those Pokemon that normally wouldn't, like, be huge damage threats. Okay, so they're going to go with Instant Xerneas. Like, the idea here is also I set up the Hail on turn 1, right? So by setting up the Hail, that immediately makes things a little bit easier because the Xerneas is taking a little bit of chip damage every turn. So it's like we have Sacred Fire into hail damage, into E-Speed, into hail. So like, turn 1, what I think I can do is probably just protect Ninetales to conserve the Focus Sash and just go for a Sacred Fire onto the Xern. The Fear is missing Sacred Fire right now, but like a Sacred Fire burn turn 1 would actually put us in a very commanding position, quite frankly. So this is the lead I expected from them. I think this is just their best way to get Xerneas set up turn 1. They also could have gone Volcarona, but if Volcarona came out, I probably would have just clicked Blizzard into Stone Edge turn 1. So maybe the matchup actually isn't as bad as it is. It really comes down to how much we do with Sacred Fire, like how bulky are you. So, yep, they try to fake out. This is so good, too, because it conserves my Focus Sash, meaning that I get, you know, 1 attack off with Ninetales before it faints. And even if it's 10 to 15%, that goes a long way in this matchup, because Xerneas can't really heal, right? Unless it actually has Draining Kiss, which is very occasionally a tech that you'll see on Xerneas. So if they actually have Draining Kiss, that could be a really big problem for us, because that basically invalidates my entire game plan. Okay, we do connect on Sacred Fire, fortunately. It's not bad damage, but it's not really great damage either. And more importantly, or I should say unfortunately, we don't get a burn there. But because I'm Assault Vested, this next turn is really intriguing. Because if you're my opponent, you're obviously nervous about how much Entei is going to do, right? So you could protect the Xerneas and then go for a parting shot with Incineroar. So, like, I think I'm going to Sacred Fire into Xerneas, but this is as good of a time as ever to go for a Sheer Cold, I think, onto the Instant slot. Okay, they just Moonblast. I would think Entei takes this, actually. That did nothing. Yeah, that's a very bulky Xerneas. Special attack drop is fine. We miss Sheer Cold, but that's fine as well. I mean, I could have gone for Blizzard there. But that's almost a KO. Like, you're 1 turn of hail away, and we actually get the burn this time around, so actually we'll just faint now. And then the Flare Blitzing. That's actually a really big deal, because one thing I was nervous about in this matchup was how we deal damage into Incineroar. But by going for Flare Blitz, you're actually going to take, yeah, like 25% of recoil, which goes a long way, because, you know, once again, Instant's also one of those Pokemon that can't really heal, but AV Entei here is super good as it's a little bit bulkier and actually takes a +2 Moonblast with over 50%. That is remarkable. So, this has played out really well, right? Like, we just eliminated the biggest threat to Kyurem. Kyurem's still not amazing in this matchup, but has Earth Power for the Incineroar. If you bring out Volcarona right now, I'm just going to click Stone Edge into it. Turns out they did bring Regieleki. Okay, that's fine by me. Aleki, we've got Ferrothorn in the back, so our priority ideally is to KO Incineroar right now. I could see them just going for Electro Web into an attack onto Entei. I've got E-Speed. I mean, the play I lean towards most here is just Sacred Fire. Oops. Sacred Fire into the Aleki slot and Protect with Ninetales right now. If we could get a Sheer Cold off at any point in this episode, I'd be ecstatic. But it's a position where it's like, you actually probably, it would be fine to run something like Aurora Veil there, because that's like, you know, at least guaranteed protection, but Sheer Cold's one of those moves that's just kind of like a get out of jail for free card, right? Where they go for Throat Chop. Let's see if this KOs us. Entei is so good, wow. Manages to hang on from a +2 Moonblast and we get the burn there, though Hail would have KO'd Aleki anyway. Yeah, it took a +2 Moonblast, 2 turns of Hail, and a Throat Chop. This Entei spread is next level. Okay, do we faint from Hail here? No, we don't. So, 3 turns of Hail, a +2 Moonblast from boosted Xerneas, an Electro Web, and a Throat Chop. I forgot to mention the Electro Web as well. Wow. They bring out Volcarona. Man, the thing is, this is actually still very losable if this is Quiver Dance Volk. Oh, boy. Oh, but if you're Quiver Dance, that means like... Oh, no, but Instant outspeeds me right now thanks to Electro Web. So I should probably switch this out. Ferrothorn is completely useless for us at this point in the game. So I'm going to go out into Ferrothorn, and this is as good of a time as ever to just go for another Sheer Cold. Blizzard and Moonblast do such negligible damage that... Oh, maybe it does put it in like Earth Power KO range from Kyurem, but because I didn't bring Aleki and I brought Ferrothorn instead, this is still losable. But they Protect, which is actually good. I'm very fine seeing Protect because it means your Volcarona isn't getting boosted for the turn, and that's what matters. So maybe it's better to launch Sheer Cold into the Instant slot there, and they throw Chop into Ninetales. Yeah, that's fine. So I get Kyurem in safely now, which is good. Another question is this Volcarona spread. Yeah, I mean, maybe I should have launched Sheer Cold onto Incin there. The odds of hitting one of two Sheer Colds actually aren't terrible. Last turn of Hail. That doesn't really matter. I don't know if Life Orb Earth Power KOs Incin, though, is the problem. I forgot Knockoff. Okay, I'm down for Knockoff onto Volk. And Earth Power onto Incin. Like, the fear here is that I don't have enough damage to beat Volcarona in this endgame now. And we'll go for a Rage Powder. We'll get Life Orb Earth Power off. Nice, that KOs Incineroar. Okay. No Quick Claw activation, unfortunately, but that's fine. The other key thing to note is that we're actually faster than Volcarona, which is a huge deal. So that should put us in a commanding position as they end up just launching Flamethrower into Ferrothorn, but that's fine, right? Because Pharaoh is not the Pokemon that is outspeeding you right now. And it means Kyurem is healthier now. So Hail is gone, but we're not clicking Blizzard at this point in the game anyway. So we can just bring the Kyurem, or not the Kyurem, Entei back out. And yeah, like, the thing here is because we had Quick Claw on the Ferrothorn, like, even if the early game went really poorly into Xerneas, we always had an interesting potential out against it, right? The question here is whether or not it's worth E-speeding. I think it's fine to E-speed. I don't want to Stone Edge, just because that Volcarona is probably going to be faster than us, and E-speed's honestly a significant amount of burst damage, especially with us being faster with the Kyurem. Relative to Volk right now. So they actually just end up forfeiting. Okay, so if I had to guess, it's probably support Volcarona, protect, Flamethrower, Rage Powder, and then a 4th attack. So it's a really big deal that, yeah, they couldn't, like, Quiver Dance and set up in front of us, because we didn't have great late game damage into Volk, especially if they had a special defense boost there. And with the Entei being as low as it was. We can actually check their teams, I'm curious. Goggles Incin, Focus Sash Jellicent, Max Speed, Wiki Volcarona, okay. Wow, they were Quiver Dance. They just never went for it. Okay. They had an opportunity to in that game, I think. The turn that they protected, if they just click Quiver Dance there, it might be winnable for them. Not max speed, but still would have outsped our Entei. 157, 232 HP Xerneas. Okay. It was pretty bulky. AV Rillaboom. And then this is where healing is. There's no Amoonguss. So it's on Indeedee instead, and you've got Heal Pulse. Otherwise, Amoonguss will typically run, you know, like Pollen Puff, for example. So, yeah. I didn't think that was a super easy matchup, but the early game went really well, and then I think their team generally is actually just really weak into Entei. Like, there's no good Entei answer here, right? Especially because their damage is so heavily concentrated on special attackers. The only physical... Like, you have Incin, but that doesn't really deal that much damage into Entei, as you can see. And Rillaboom. And so that was part of the issue, right? I think, like, their team just is so heavily revolved around Xerneas, that if Xerneas faints, then you're relying on a bunch of more support-oriented Pokemon to carry you in the end game. And so that wasn't able to do that much. Like, they just never had that much damage for us after we eliminated Xerneas, which was really good. But, yeah, it's been a fast couple of ones, so we'll look for one final one here. Last one here, and it's another Xerneas team. Okay, so we just went up against it. Like I said, I don't think it's the easiest matchup. By the way, we were able to get to the top 100 with this team, which I think is pretty neat. So, fun set of games today, and definitely have had a generally good streak of games between this and the last two teams we featured. Both that Kyogre and Groudon team, I think, are just two of the best teams you can use right now, especially if you want to climb the ladder quickly. They're just really well built and really consistent as well, and gives you generally favorable matchups across the board. But let's talk about this one. They have Dracovish. That actually makes Entei's life a lot more difficult. I honestly think the answer might be to drop Ferrothorn, because it's like, it's so unlikely that we're going to eliminate both Incin and Volcarona to the point where Ferrothorn can actually do anything. And that's where, like, Scarf ZAP actually becomes more interesting to me. Okay. So I think, yeah, I'm going to bring Jellicent, because that last game, Ferrothorn was completely useless for us. It's, like, fun with the Quick Claw, but when your opponent is dual fire, it just really... hard to imagine a position where Ferrothorn actually gets to do anything, basically. I like the lead, Ninetales Entei like the last game, and then Kyurem-W in the back. I think out of all the restricted, Xerneas is probably the one that you... it's going to be one of the scariest ones to play against. Like, Zacian, of course, also is scary, but at least, like, Kyurem has a super effective Earth Power into it, and you have Entei on the team to, you know, potentially just one-shot it. But... Xerneas is just tricky because you just really don't do enough damage with Kyurem even before Geomancy. And they're going to go with Volcarona and Xerneas, okay. This is where leading Jellicent would have panned out a lot better for me. So I can Blizzard to start. Like, I mean, Blizzard and just Stone Edge here is what I lean towards. Like, get some chip damage on Xerneas, get the knockout onto Volcarona. And now it's like, though, I should have brought Ferrothorn, right? Good on my opponent on not leading that Incineroar. If I led a Lecky plus Entei, I guess it's still okay into Instant Xerneas, so maybe a Lecky was objectively just a better lead always, even though this lead worked for us in the last game. Yeah, I'm just gonna Stone Edge and Blizzard turn 1. They protect Volk, great play. Oh, they didn't Rage Powder. That's really smart. That's really greedy. Okay. But also, if we miss Stone Edge, it might just be a game-winning play right there. So let's see. I guess that makes sense, because if I launch Sacred Fire into Xerneas, I don't KO you. It depends on how bulky you are. And then you have a +1 fully healthy Volcarona. The scary thing with Stone Edge is that 80% is just really unreliable in VGC. It's not an attack that you want to like depend on, but here it's really just our best play. And Entei fortunately connects on it, which is absolutely huge, so we just eliminate Volk immediately, which is fantastic. But now it's, you know, it's that last game where I was like, oh wow, am I going to ever be in a position where I'll have like Ferrothorn can actually come out and do anything? And maybe in this one it actually could. But the upside once again is that this Entei is quite bulky, has the AV, and Ninetales has sheer cold. Blizzard also is still able to continue and chip away. They bring out Dracovish, though. If this is Scarf Dracovish, I actually think the game's just kind of over at this point. It probably is, right? Actually, no. Hold on. You can't pick up a double KO here. I've got Moonblast, so I'm thinking we just Moonblast Dracovish. I mean, I really want to switch out here. Switch into Kyurem. It's just like they could Dazzling Gleam, like double up on Ninetales here. Yeah, I'm gonna swap into Kyurem here and just Moonblast into Dracovish, because Dracovish is their way of dealing with the Entei right now. Otherwise, AV Entei is still really good into Xerneas. But if they call this turn correctly and double up onto Ninetales, which I think has a decent chance here, like decent probability. Okay, they Moonblast. They don't Dazzling Gleam. That's an interesting decision. So I'm already wondering, do you even have Dazzling Gleam to begin with? They are Scarfed. Okay, and they don't double up there. That's huge. Okay. Hopefully Moonblast KOs. That is Scarf Dracovish, as we mentioned. Yeah, I mean, we have Fairy Aura to get boosted off of, which is really nice. So that eliminates the biggest threat to Entei now. This is where if I brought Ferrothorn, last round I could have just switched Ferrothorn in, which would have been really nice. I'm curious if Instant is their last one, because otherwise their Ferrothorn answers are actually pretty subpar. They did bring Instant, yeah. So this is what I mean, right? Like, how could my opponent not bring Instant and Volcarona into this matchup, given that I have a Ferrothorn? So, like, in what position will I ever really succeed in getting Ferrothorn out safely, is the question. And the answer is not really that frequently. Okay, I think we just, like, Entei's the win con in this late game, so I think we just sack the Kyurem right now. I'll just go out with an Earth Power. Actually, we don't need damage on Instant. I like Blizzard here because it gets chip onto both. And just protect with Ninetales. Ideally, that gives me the free switch into Incineroar. There's also a chance that Lecky outspeeds, Scarf Lecky outspeeds Xerneas? Probably not, but maybe that's wishful thinking. They did have Dazzling Gleam, so their decision to Moonblast last turn over Gleaming is interesting, but might have actually benefited them. Because if you don't do that, you would have just given me a free switch in immediately. Although I guess I would probably just end up double protecting anyway. Oh no, Entei can't protect. I'm not sure. I mean, this is max speed Lecky. We're 277, so a Choice Scarf. Yeah, with Scarf we might outspeed, right? Because I'm hitting over 400, and Zern's definitely not at that even post Geomancy. Meaning I can bring this out. No, I think we go into Entei first, because with Entei I can click Sacred Fire. It's just, if you're my opponent, your play right now is to protect Xerneas, in my opinion. And then hit the Entei. But I'm gonna just Sacred Fire Xerneas, and it's probably better to Moonblast here rather than Sheer Cold, because it's guaranteed damage onto Instinct, which is actually important here. Sheer Cold's fun, but like, We're in a position where Moonblast actually does a sizable amount, so no need to go for the sheer cold. They don't protect. So if we hit the Sacred Fire, we should win the game, I think. AV Anti is so good. Wow. This thing just, like, makes Xerneas teams... it makes their life so much more difficult. We were bound to miss. Maybe it's fine because they're... oh, okay, they did Blitz. I think we can maybe even take another Moonblast, but... yeah. We were lucky enough to hit most of our attacks today, so, like, it's natural to, you know, have a miss at some point in the game. After Hail, I feel like we faint. So that means I need to adapt. It's just that a Lucky doesn't do any damage, so that's unfortunate. But with Entei, you are just gonna miss sometimes with your strongest attacks, right? It's just part of the game. Last turn of Hail. Like, I'm probably gonna have to hit a Zap Cannon to win this, is what I'm thinking. Yeah. Because we can E-Speed right now into Xerneas and protect Ninetales. I don't feel bad about it, though. Like, we win the game the majority of the time, right? And like I said, we were lucky enough to hit the attacks that we did throughout today's episode. And so, naturally, when you play multiple games and you're using slightly inaccurate attacks, you're going to miss here and there. It's fine. It's just how Pokemon is. So they're going to go for a Moonblast. Yep, it's enough for a KO. The only question then is it may have been worth it to have just gone for another Extreme Speed earlier, because if 2 E-Speeds into Xerneas may have just won us the game, right? Because then Xerneas would probably still survive, but then I don't have to rely on hitting a Zap Cannon here. But Zap Cannon at least gives us a shot. I don't think any of the other attacks we can really viably go for right now. I don't even know if it KOs, but also, even if it doesn't, could Para. So, yeah, we're going to Zap Cannon the Xerneas here, and we are just going to Moonblast into Incineroar, I think. I also got a Moonblast at Xerneas earlier. Lucky does hit the Zap Cannon, though, which is huge. Is that enough for a KO? Nice. Okay, so I guess a knockout there. 50% chance, but it's better than 0%, right? The scary thing is we could still miss more. Good damage onto Incin. There's Flare Blitz. Who are you targeting here is the question. They actually target a Lecky. And they crit. I'm not sure that would have KO'd without the crit. But you take enough recoil where I'm pretty sure Moonblast finishes you off. So we might just end up winning this on 1 HP. I mean, Incin doesn't have priority, so we just go for Moonblast. Zap Cannon came up huge there, though. So glad some of the techs came out today. We didn't get to, you know, land a sheer cold, but... in this game, it wasn't worth fishing for 30% chances to KO Incin when we could get guaranteed damage onto it. So, while it's a fun play, you also have to recognize when it's actually correct to go for, and in this endgame, I didn't really think it was. So, yeah. Fortunately for us, you know, we hit the Zap Cannon. It's a really interesting move. It's one that very few players ever really expect. And it can bail you out of situations like that specifically, right? So, yeah, very lucky that we actually are able to connect it. It's only a 50% chance, which is obviously really scary, but we do manage to do so and pick up the knockout onto Xerneas. So, yeah, even though Xerneas is probably one of the tougher matchups for this team, you can certainly have answers into it, and we were actually able to win both matchups today against it, which was pretty cool. So, this is a really, really fun team. It has a lot of eccentrics and quirky, like, team building choices, as I mentioned. And so I hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you did. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. All right. Peace.